It is my absolute honour this evening to ask a few questions to the incredible Cynthia Erivo. I am going to start off with a couple of questions. We've already also had some pre-submitted questions, and there's going to be an opportunity for you to ask some too. Cynthia also has generously just flew in this morning from Jeddah, so she knows how important this event is and has definitely wanted to make it. So thank you for doing
my
this.
pleasure. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that was incredible.
Thank you.
Let's just start at the beginning. I believe that you were 25 years old and you took yourself out on a little day trip on your own to see the musical in London.
Yeah. So I knew the music already, like the back of my hands, because I had been learning it when I was at RADA. Whenever I felt a little bit odd or a little bit different, and I wasn't having a good day, a friend of mine would always get the libretto, and we would go to a room with a piano, and we would just sing the music. So from the age of about 19, 28 to the age of 23, I had learnt the score. I'd learnt that music, and I had never seen the show. And when I was 25 and could finally buy a ticket to the West End, I took myself on a birthday date by myself to see the show. And I remember, because I sat in the we call it the mezzanine in America, I think, but it's like the one up from the stalls. What do we call it? Circle. I've been there too long. The circle. And the flying monkeys can come into the aisles. I remember feeling like a kid. I remember thinking, oh my God, this is fucking amazing. What the heck? But then I remember feeling like I recognized what it felt like for that green girl to feel alone and feel different, and the rage that was coming from her and the anger, but not really knowing how to put it anywhere and not knowing what to do with it, and then finally learning what it meant to accept herself and then be powerful. And that sort of stuck with me and has for a really long time. And I didn't know if I was ever going to get a chance to do it. I thought to myself, I wonder, because it was already on Broadway and it was already on the West End, and I hadn't seen anyone like me get to do it, and I just didn't know if there was a chance for me to even begin looking at what that role would be like. And then there was that part of myself that was like, what if it was ever a movie? I don't know. Would I ever be included? And when I got to do Broadway, I could hear buzzes, like the buzz about it, and there might be a movie coming, and I was like, just nobody talked to me about doing this movie, because if it's not happening, it's not happening. I don't know if it's ever going to happen for me. Cut to 10 years later, I'm 35, and then I get a role. Yeah.
I think perhaps this audience, more than any other, will want to know a little bit about the audition process in a way, because kind of you really do, like, you stand in your power and your glory in this role. But I'm wondering kind of even kind of the idea of having to audition, what that was like, and you know, the rigor of the audition.
Yeah. I'm really glad that I got to audition, because I think John, my director, John Chu, was kind of giving me the opportunity to show something that I hadn't been able to show before. I hadn't been given the opportunity to show this. He says, I know Cynthia, the icon Cynthia, he says, I know as she stands on big stages with orchestras, and I know that there's this like graciousness, that, you know, there's this elegance, it's really strong, but I hadn't seen like this sort of young, youthful vulnerability. But that time, because he'd also never seen me audition, I just realized that when I audition, I'm just myself. So when I walked in, he always describes what I was wearing, which was just like a t-shirt and pair of jeans and some flats and a warm cardigan. That's what I wanted to walk in. I wanted to be comfortable in this room, because I didn't want anything in the way of the movement and what I wanted to feel. So I go in with this, and it's 3 hours for me. And it's essentially a camera test. So I audition with 2 other actresses. The first hour and a half is with one actress, and we scenes, we do songs, I sing, and then the next hour and a half is with the other actors. We do scenes, we sing songs, and then there's like another 10 odd minutes before I leave where I get to just do the songs that are solo. And one of those songs is The Wizard and I. And I've always thought of The Wizard and I as something that's really hopeful. It's the one thing where you get to see her be wishful and youthful and to believe that anything is possible. You see such joy in her in that moment. I've always believed that that's what that song is about. The possibilities being endless for her. That's the beginning for her. That's where she has that in her, that she still has the hope that something good can happen for herself. So that's what I did. I wanted that song to be a relief, because we know, and I knew where she would go. I knew the things she would go through. I knew the pain she would experience. I knew the pain that she has experienced. But I think often when we see a person that's experienced pain, we assume they have no hope left. We assume they have no joy left. But that's not true. Yeah. We are beings of many layered things. The things that happen to us don't leave us in. They don't make us one-dimensional. They fracture us. They make us hopeful and hurt and seen. Well, all of those things. And I wanted all of that for her. I wanted her to feel really full as a person, not just her anger, not just her pain, but a bit of joy too, because I think that's what actually breaks your heart, that she has hope, that she has joy. It's just she doesn't get to share it as often.
Her child, yeah. I'm going to come to you after this next question, so keep them poised. Can you believe that the whole cast are singing kind of live while filming?
Kind of live.
But it's a spectacle. And just kind of when you're saying kind of on that audition, the fact that kind of, when you've performed on Broadway and everything, you've like, there's a different kind of performance and taking over that stage. But doing this must have meant kind of your vocals and how you perform. How did that differ? And did you have to like retrain and relearn certain things?
I don't think I had to retrain per se. I think that the training on stage readied me for being able to sing on a set. We were really lucky because Simon Hayes, our sound designer, he basically turned the set into a big recording studio.
He's amazing.
He's exquisite. And he turned the set and us into a recording studio. So our mics were all over the place. Sometimes when you see me with a hat on and I'm speaking or singing, there is a mic in my hat. But that wouldn't be the only mic that I'd be wearing. I'd be wearing the mic in my hat. I'd wear the mic that was on my clothes that you wouldn't be able to see. I'd wear a mic that was usually the mic in my clothes. There'd be two mics, or there would be mic. There might be a spare mic and a spare pack in the hat, but the mic running would be poised to pick up the sound. But what that meant was that we didn't have to necessarily worry about whether or not the sound would be captured. So I would sing like it was on stage. But it's also learning that if the camera is here, I don't need to send it all the way out. Yeah. I can sing it here.
You can be vulnerable with it.
So as opposed to hands touch, eyes meet, it becomes hands touch, eyes meet, sudden silence, sudden heat. It means that I can bring you close, Yeah. It means those singing live meant that we could do that. We could like breathe. We could take our time on the entries of things, that we didn't have to rush into it. Did that really just happen? Have I actually understood that we could take the time? Because there's nothing else playing in my ear. It's just a pianist. It's Dominic playing with me. So he would wait for my cue to begin, and John would say, just give her a breath. Just wait till she starts. Something has changed changed within me. That's not what is written. What's written is, something has changed within me. Something is not the same. But John said, do not start until she's ready to start. So that meant I could do, something has changed, which changes the meaning. Now all of a sudden I can tell you it's different. Something is, and my voice broke and it became a whisper. Not the same. Well, I can do that if I'm given the space to do that. And singing it live in that situation where your pianist, your music supervisor, and the composer are like, do it, tell the story for the situation you're in now. And when you get to sing it live, you can actually make those choices and do something different, not because you want to do something different, but because that's what the situation is asking for. Yeah.
Space, time, support.
That's right.
Wow. I'm going to come to you now. Has anyone got a question? There's someone just here. There's a microphone and someone right at the back as well. You've got a microphone just for the little girl in the white jacket. We'll come to the back first and then we'll come to you next. Thank you.
Hi, Cynthia.
Hello.
I think it's just incredible. I think the question for me is, what was the most challenging aspect of approaching the entire role?
I think the most challenging aspect was I think I had to learn a new skill of singing whilst being suspended in the air, which on the outset looks like a fun, adventurous thing, and it is, but you really do have to like relearn your entire physical system, because to make a lot of sound, you usually need the ground beneath you. And when you don't have the ground beneath you, you have to find the ground. And so usually if you don't have the ground beneath you, you use your diaphragm. But if your diaphragm is in a corset and a harness, you don't have your diaphragm. So you have to find out where to put the breath. And usually you put the breath in, if that's what's happening, you put it higher, shallower in your lungs. But if you put it shallower in your lungs, you can't get enough air to make that sound. So you have to send it into your back. But like, what does that mean to send it into your back? Well, you have to realize that your lungs don't open just at the front. They expand, which is why your ribs open out and forward and back. That's why it has cartilage and muscle and all of that. So you have to learn the anatomy of your body again to make the sound. And that's what I had to sort of relearn, because I didn't know how to do that before I started learning the stunts and singing at the same time. I didn't know. And then to get your extra added push, which would be the ground, you have to imagine the ground beneath you because it's not there. So I think that was the challenge, the most challenging thing for me to do. And also feeling safe enough and allowing myself to feel safe enough to be really, really, really vulnerable, because there are moments where it gets really, really painful. But you kind of have to just go with it and trust that the safety you need is real and is there for you. And it was, yeah.
Hi, Cynthia. I just wanted to tell you that you're absolutely amazing, and that I just had a question of like, how was the experience? Did you have those times when you were feeling absolutely horrible and you're like, oh my God, why did I have to do that? And were you feeling, or were there like times when you were feeling that this feels great?
I had a very good question, and hello, and thank you. The days I felt, so my days were really long, and they started at unreasonable hours. Mainly because all the makeup was practical, and I would train before I got in to do my makeup. My calls or my pickup time was usually like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. to be in the chair. If it's 5 a.m., it's to be in the chair by 6, to be on set by 8 or 9. But I would have woken up at 3 to get a workout in, then to get in, and then I would be in the chair for another 2.5 hours or 3.5 hours. So there are days by the end of the week of doing that, you're just exhausted. And so there are definitely days where you wake up and you think, I don't know if I'm going to make it to the bathroom to have a shower, but I'll just move slowly. There are definitely days where you're like, I think it's impossible for me to be able to make it through this 14-hour day if I'm barely awake. And then there are days where you do make it to the end of the 14-hour day, and the end of the 14-hour day is The Wizard and I. Those days are awesome. You take the good with the bad, you know? Because the bad isn't necessarily bad. They're just like growing pains. They provide something really necessary, but in the moment they don't necessarily feel great. I don't necessarily want to be on a treadmill for 2 hours running, but I'm glad I was, because it means I can fly and sing at the same time. You know? So every day was varied, but every day was necessary. Yeah.
The shoot itself was a year. Is that right?
Yeah, so between a year and 8 months, and we started rehearsing in August 2022. We started shooting in December 2022, ran through 2023 up until June or July. The strike happened. We were put on pause for 6 months. We came back at the top of this year in January, and the last thing we had to shoot was Defying Gravity.
God.
Yeah. So we finished in February.
God.
Yeah.
It's a long time to stay with someone, isn't it?
Yeah. It's
How
like
does
playing
that-
double dutch. It's just waiting. When is it time? When is it time? And like finding ways to stay prepared. That was a really interesting exercise in how to learn to compartmentalize. So learn to keep the character awake and ready, but sort of on pause. But then you have to make sure that your body is also awake and ready, and so that you can still slip back into that person. But you have to go on with your life, because it was 6 months. The strike was going for 6 months.
You didn't know how long.
We didn't know how long it was going to be. Yeah, just waiting.
Okay, we've had some questions submitted. So I'm going to ask one of these, then I'm going to come back to someone in the audience for the final question. And let's see. My God, we've got so many great questions here. Okay. As an actor, how do you approach the political elements of the story? Since the story hinges on discrimination, divisive politics and hatred elements that are so apparent in our world today, was this something that you had to think about?
I don't know that I necessarily had to do anything for it to be apparent in the story. The writer, and I'm talking about Gregory Maguire, who wrote the book, had already put it in the DNA of this piece.
The world's always been divisive.
The world's always been divisive. The world he created was always divisive. The world he was wanting to talk about was political. And so it's something that he had already talked about with our director, John, with Mark, because he loves the show, but he knew that he wanted more of what he had written in that book in the film. It was there, you know, and we just had to be really open to it. There's a strange dictator who is trying to put people against create an enemy so that he can create a unified world. You know, it's just there, and you just don't fight it, essentially. And we don't pretend it's not there. We're not afraid of it being, because it was written.
Yeah.
If we didn't want to do it, we wouldn't. Yeah.
One final question from the audience. Your hand went up first.
Yeah.
It did. There's a microphone coming to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
You know, successful people are habits that they've had to cultivate. So I wondered, like, what are maybe like 3 of your habits that you've built up? You know, you've already mentioned working out.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you think enriches you, not only as a performer but as a person as well?
I think my I guess it's become a ritual. The way I take care of my voice. I know that I know that my voice is a gift that was given, so I don't take it lightly. So I take great care of it. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I am a bit of a hermit. I don't go out and party. I'm not that person. I feed myself really well to feed my voice. But I also, and I said this to someone as well, because there's the practical aspect of taking care of your voice, but the metaphysical aspect is also making sure you don't misuse your voice. Like, actually use it for the right reason. Sing the right songs that make sense for you. Sing for the right reason. Like, if you are going to sing this song, are you connecting with someone? Are you sharing with someone? Or are you just showcasing? If you're showcasing, that's misusing. If you're connecting and you're sharing, or you're trying to provide something, then you're actually growing the thing that you have, right? And another ritual, I take in other people's work. I love watching shows, going to plays, going and watching film, and I will go by myself if no one else will come with me. Because I think there's something really wonderful about always learning. I don't think I'm ever going to be done learning. I think I'm always going to be inspired by the work that other people do. And I think if you want others to do the same for you, you do the same for others as well. Like, I'm going to go and see your play if I'm expecting you to come and see mine. I'm going to go see your film if I'm expecting you to come and see my film. I think that's just an important thing. So give unto others as you would have, given to you. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And all that's left for me to say is, Cynthia Erivo, you're a motherfucking star. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. Good night.